Welcome to This Week in Pulling, the show that brings you all the action from the world of tractor and truck pulling. I'm Dan Mayer, joined by Jeremy and Miles Krieger, and each week we'll dive into the latest highlights, breaking news, and behind-the-scenes stories from the sport we all love. From upcoming events, standout performances, and the rich history that shaped pulling into what it is today, we've got you covered. So buckle up, This Week in Pulling starts now. Welcome back. This Week in Pulling, episode number 37 on the docket. Dan Mayer joined by Jeremy Krieger. Miles is going to try to join us a little bit later, but Jeremy, we start this week on a somber note.
Absolutely. Hello again, everybody. Happy to be with you for another week, and happy Thanksgiving Eve to all as we come live to you here this evening. But afraid we're the bearer of some bad tidings here this evening as the recent announcement today that we lost an absolute pillar in the sport of truck and tractor pulling this afternoon in the sudden and untimely death of Steve Boyd in Washington, Indiana, the patriarch of the Boyd family. And as Miles and I have talked at length, I think it would take forever to list the accomplishments of this guy and all of the influences that he's had and all of the lives that he's touched and all of the accomplishments that he's had in the sport of tractor pulling and in personal business and in farming. Just an absolute giant of a person in the Washington, Indiana community. And boy, what a loss we are feeling tonight.
Absolutely. And like you say, just all the accomplishments and everything, but just an all-around great guy.
7-time pro stock champion, countless, buckles and rings, and what a legacy he has led to his sons Greg and Mike, and then grandsons Andrew and Austin, and then more generations are coming down the line. But I know Miles, hopefully he'll be able to jump on a little bit later, and I'm sure he'll have some words this evening as well. But wow, just I don't think any of us really saw that one coming, and it's very, very sad. And of course, our thoughts and prayers are with the Boyds and everybody who loved Steve. It's going to be a giant loss, on par with some of the other big ones. My dad, of course, was gone for 3 years today as we record this. Hard to believe that's already here. It's been 3 years already. And then, just thinking about people like, Larry Kester and Don Masterson and some of those other ones that have left us, just feel a big hole we'll heal. We'll go on because they would want us to do that. But wow, it just kind of kicks you in the gut and takes your breath away for sure.
No, like you say, you're never prepared for anything like this, and everyone that, but I do say they have got to be having one heck of a tractor pull up there.
Oh, absolutely. And I feel like
touched on that a few weeks ago, but
the central receiving office up there had to have been chock full of people ready to welcome him home and, visit with some old pals that had gone before him. And I'm sure, I'd like to think my father was among that, group and party of welcoming, people welcoming him into the gates of heaven upstairs. So, but again, just, the sons and the daughters and the grandsons and the, all the employees and all of the local farming community and just everybody he touched over the course of his life. You, myself, Miles, we'll all, we're all changed for the better for having known him and having been, in his presence.
Absolutely. And once again, to say what you said about, thoughts and prayers out to everybody. And like you say, we're going to, Miles is hopefully going to join us a little bit later. We'll continue back. We'll circle back with Steve here in just a little bit here. And we'll wait for Miles to make it on with us and talk about some things with, about Steve and Jeremy this past weekend, the news just keeps coming.
I tell you what, yeah, it's a weird year, but it's a good weird, and I think it's going to affect pulling in great ways. But every time I think, okay, the banquets are here, and there's new sponsors being announced, and new classes being announced, and new events being announced, and maybe that's the extent of it. every weekend something else is said or done that's just absolutely like, topping the previous weekend. So this past weekend, it was basically announced that there is a new alliance in the works between the IHRA, the International Hot Rod Association, which has already bought, several drag tracks all across the United States that they can utilize to put on high stakes events. We knew that was going to happen, and we knew there was this sort of high stakes piece in affiliation with the IHRA. But what we did not know is that now the PPL and the IHRA and the Outlaw Truck and Tractor Pulling Team have all jumped on board with this same sort of a working together in a marketing alliance to grow their respective numbers. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't see that one coming.
I don't think anybody saw that one coming. And what's interesting about it is, okay, so they've got, offshore power boats. They've got now drag boats.
Yes, and
we saw today.
They announced today there are stock cars.
Exactly. Yes, like a stock car series now with the IHRA. I mean, this is like AKA Forrest Lucas all over again.
That's what I was going to say. It sort of reminds you of the early days of Lucas Oil when they had the dirt late model series and the drag boat series and all of the local stock racing stuff that they had, and then of course the Lucas Oil Drag Racing Sportsman series. So yeah, absolutely, I can totally see where they're going with that. But again, I think when Forrest Lucas had that, all of those different entities were very successful, and they did great things, and they brought in a lot of fans to their respective promotions and made money for everybody and the marketing partners.
Absolutely. And took, organizations that, had been, floundering and really weren't doing anything, like the drag boats, the off-road series. He took all them and built them up and
sure.
Got, national coverage for them, and they were able to be seen. And, hopefully, things continue here with the IHRA and their vision. I'm not exactly sure where, what their vision is right now. I'm sure they got so much going on, but yeah, it just seems to me like, they're just kind of bringing everything under an umbrella, and we'll see where it goes.
Absolutely. And I, like I say, having talked to some people that are involved, everybody's, impetus, if you will, or the reasoning behind this is to make pulling better, grow pulling, and give not only the fans and the promoters something, but to carve up a little bit sweeter of a pot for the pullers as well. And I think the only way to do that is to find some revenue, and it looks to me like they've found that. So Daryl, the IHRA, is he's not at all afraid of pumping revenue into something to see dividends, and I applaud him. I think this is going to be big for the sport, and I'm excited to watch it. And like I say, I just hope I can get out there and mix it up a little bit at some of these events and, get called to actually be at a few of them. That would be an honor for me for sure.
So looking at the big picture of just, for instance, like, the, PPL and the Outlaws, I mean, when you start looking at, rules and everything and, how this is all, going to mesh, and it's, I mean, right now, two-wheel drives, basically, four-wheel drives are pretty much the two classes that are really close. But other than that, there's going to have to be, some give and take and, to get these events to happen.
Yeah. The way it was sort of explained to me is that it's, it's almost like these co-sanctioners are sort of like almost like a member state organization. So I don't know if that means they're going to be able to be autonomous and run their own rules separate from one another, or how that's going to work. Hopefully that comes down a little bit later as we get a little closer to the next season. But as I understand it, they will continue to operate independently, but be under one banner for, the mutual, promotion of each of their events.
Right. And then, the big 5 events that are going to be announced there for the series.
Right.
It'll be interesting to see how that'll be announcement at the PRI show here in a couple of weeks. I believe Friday was the big day for that announcement.
Okay.
When they were going to announce the venues for the big series. So it'll, like you say, lots of, things up in the air. And of course, the internet, a buzz of, people that know what's happening out there. But really, I don't think it's, I think it's so new that, nobody really knows, you know, and
Absolutely. That's why I kind of, part of me kind of hopes that we get to a point where there isn't new stuff coming out so we can digest all of the stuff we've already heard and you know, kind of get a game plan and figure out exactly what this all means. Because it seems like every time we get a grasp of something, the following weekend, another press release comes out and we're all scratching our head going, well, damn, I didn't
well,
see that one coming.
yeah, where did that one come from? You know, and so yeah, that'll be interesting. That'll
Absolutely.
see how that all works out, and like you say, hopefully we just keep elevating the sport to where it needs to be.
For sure. But yeah, an absolutely fantastic, announcement and, just pumping more excitement into what we hope is going to be an unbelievable 2026 on all sides of the river. Like if you can't find something to be excited about this coming year, then I need to check your pulse or get you something to wake you up, because there's going to be some really, really neat things coming down the pipe. And I'm just excited to see how it all comes out.
Yeah, absolutely. And congratulations to all the outlaw champions this year. And,
Absolutely.
Everybody waiting patiently by their mailboxes, waiting for those notes to come from, the Louisville postmark.
Yeah.
Whether you get the big envelope or you get the smaller envelope.
It's about that time. Yeah. And then it'll be interesting to see, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we start to get a picture of what that looks like and who's going and who's not going. And, I'm just kind of, I know some people have done their prognostications, and I'm excited to see if the ones we are thinking, me, I've always got some sentimental picks in there, and there are a couple that I am just fingers crossed, hoping that some of these guys that have never been there but had whales of a year last year, hop in. And speaking, people like say Jake Shepard, for example.
Yes.
That guy, in my opinion, deserves to be there. I can't speak for the committee, but I really feel like he has a shot and he should be in there. And if he is, I'm going to be really excited for him.
Yeah, we had kind of talked about, doing a prediction show with Miles, but like you say, we'll wait until we've got some time here. We can, put that together and kind of throw our ideas out there. As far as, of course, we have, we have nothing to do with the picking of. I say that all the time because people question me all the time and throughout the summer.
Why did you do that, or why did you let them in? I'm like, I had nothing. I have no idea, and I don't envy those guys. Like to me, that committee is very much like the NCAA men's basketball committee that picks the 65 teams, every March. And there's always some group of people who got their feelings hurt because they had a deserving team that didn't get in there. And in my opinion, that committee, the National Farm Machinery Show Championship Tractor Pull Committee, is exactly the same. They can't pick them all. They can only do what they think is best, and their body of work is, you do the best you can to present a good case, but at the end of the day, it belongs to those guys, because it's an invitational only pull, and they don't have to invite you.
Well, and we have talked about it, time and time again. I've even talked with Mike Witt about it.
Sure.
And it was, about the variety of the show. But then he goes, Dan, he says, you got a certain situation where you reward excellence. So if you've got somebody or the same group of trucks or tractors that year after year are at the top of their class, how could you not invite them?
Absolutely. Totally get that. But then, like, you got to split hairs. And, I know there were times when they brought in like this concept of like a champions provisional, like, somebody who didn't do very good last season, but was, very good in previous, National Farm Machinery shows. And they just kind of get in, and you're like, well, wait a minute. We kind of always thought the formula was, top 5 for each of the sanctioning bodies, and then maybe a couple ad hoc at large bids here and there. But, it's changed, and you never really know what the formula is going to be until February rolls around and you see them rolling into Broadbent Arena. And then even then, people like me are still kind of scratching their heads going, oh, wow, I didn't see that one.
Yeah. And actually I did have a puller tell me this summer that they were making a concentrated effort on running as many pulls as they possibly could for the farm show.
Sure.
So running, regional, and then running, other groups or whatever, just trying to
safety in numbers. It would stand reason, like the more you can get out there and be seen and, create a body of work or a resume, then you have a better chance of being there for sure, as opposed to if you just ran one state organization or one national organization and that was it.
With limited hooks, right?
Absolutely.
With a couple limited hooks, but yeah, like I say, that'll be always a great time of year when you start to see them start trickling in. You start to see it work, around this area first. The letters go out, and then it
Yep.
starts getting further out into the different parts of the country, and
Yep.
yeah, that's always a great time.
And then you'll see, various people on Facebook talking about they got their letters or they didn't get their letters or they got the letter they didn't want. And so then we
Yeah.
can start to piece together, all right, who's in and who's not. But it's going to be very, very interesting to see. And I don't know about you, but I can't believe like we're already there. Like,
It's been a
this
whirlwind.
is coming, PRI will be there. There's banquets happening. And then before you know it, it's go time.
Yeah, I posted that yesterday. 79 days till the farm. Well, we're 78 today, so yeah, we keep moving up here. So yeah, we're getting to that magic point. And for those fans listening that are looking for tickets, they will go on sale Black Friday, November 28th at 10 a.m. That'll be Friday, and you can get your farm show tickets, and they'll be ready to. They're ready to go. I mean, they will. They're going to have the pull, no doubt. And talked about the parking situation over there. They'll figure it out, and things will be going to have to work around a couple things there at the fairgrounds. But for the most part, once they get everybody parked and everything, it'll be business as usual there.
Yeah, and it's going to look a little bit different here,
Yep.
but they'll get them all in, and everything will be just fine. And I'm just excited. I'm ready for February to be here, and of course, that this weekend, as Miles has already talked.
Yes, you got that big
got the
milestone coming up.
Birthday coming on that Sunday, so I'm sure there'll be a lot of activity, whether I want it to or not. Coming up, farm show weekend for sure. I'm excited about it. It's going to be a great time. It always is. It's a fun place to be, and I'm excited to see what happens in 2026 for sure. But hey, while we're thinking about this, I want you to share with the fans what you get to do tomorrow. This is very exciting for those of us who are, in the know here. I hope I didn't let any cats out of any bags, but you have something really cool you get to do.
Oh, this is I will not sleep tonight. I can guarantee that.
Absolutely.
But, tomorrow we are doing an all access tour down at Angler Machine and Tool with Tim Angler.
How cool is that?
For full pull, and then also going to do a Legends, the Legend series sit down with Tim, and I've got so many questions. I don't know. I've been burning up notebooks here, just writing stuff down that's been going through my head for 40 years, and it'll be great to sit down with them and talk about everything from modified tractors to sprint cars. It's going to be. I can't wait.
Absolutely. Neither can I. I am an absolute jealous wreck this evening. This is fantastic, and I can't wait to hear how this all goes. And I can't wait to see when it all gets packaged and put out. What an unbelievable. I mean, just to get to tour that shop and be a part of the, seeing all of those years of success for him. I've always wanted to do that. So you're getting a bucket list for me tomorrow for sure.
Yeah, this is going to be great. Actually, Tim called me tonight and confirmed that we're good to go 10 Central Time tomorrow morning. So we're going to meet out there, and yeah, no, it's I can't wait. Going to be very short sleep tonight. That's for sure. That's going to be
stay tuned to Full Pull, and of course, if you don't belong to Full Pull, please
yes,
consider joining, because not only do you get live pulling action when there is pulling action, but in the off season, you'll get Legend series and all sorts of interesting content every day that you're able to log in and see what Dan and the rest of the crew over there put out over the winter. It's going to be very interesting to see.
Yeah, so we'll have the all access series will come out first, and then we'll do like we did last year, springtime. We'll do the Legend interviews, probably right around that April time when things kind of teeter off from the winter season into
Sure.
the summer season there. So that's the plan right now, and we'll see how that goes as we move along. But yeah, no, it's I'm ready. I'm ready to go right now. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, and Tim's a great guy, and we definitely want to bring that out and show what this man has done over the years and what he has built, and just amazing.
Absolutely. Not far down just a little jaunt down 64 for you tomorrow, down 64 westbound to Princeton.
Yeah, up 41, right? Up 41 there, and over by the tri-state. Is it tri-state or tri-city?
Area
Yep.
up there, not far from the land of the Kesters. Real close for sure. So yeah, I'll be very interested to know how that goes. And will you get to do lunch too, or are you just doing hanging out at the shop?
It's gonna be probably an all day affair there. So yeah, it'll be pretty cool to get that. Looking for an all day by the time we do the all access tour, and then sit down with Tim and go over some interesting things, and hopefully we can jog some interesting stories. I'm sure there's plenty of them, and that. But yeah, that's it's been in the works here, and can't wait to get it rolling.
Boy, and it sure would be cool to jump on Pulling Reference tonight and then check all the stats again, just to make sure you had all your stuff right. But wow, you can't.
Well, I can. I can, but you folks out there, you can't yet. So that's going to be my Christmas present to everybody. We've gone from in your Easter basket to your what else we got here? Your Halloween
next Fourth of July, it'll be in the Uncle Sam will bring it to your mailbox in the summer months. Come on, Go Daddy, what are we doing here? You're killing me.
They're working. They're working. I've got the final work done here, so we'll see if we've got December 8th marked down here for our last meeting. So hoping to be launching there before Christmas.
I hope so too. We're waiting
before the next year. I mean, next year, we gotta get something going here.
We're waiting with a bated breath for sure.
We are, and actually that would be PRI week. So yes. Yeah, that's December 8th. That's on a Monday. So this another great announcement for PRI, right? There you go.
Yes.
People be like, "Hey, ain't ever going to happen."
Yeah, PRI, come on. Yeesh, as he says.
Yes. So we got NTPA banquet coming up. That'll be in the week after this. We got Thanksgiving weekend. Once again, Jeremy mentioned about that. Everybody having a safe weekend. If you're doing some traveling out there and go and visit family, weather looks like it may be a little sketch up there in the western New York area. I know my son said they're expecting some lake effect snow up there, but
well, here in our area where you and I are, it's going to be very cold, like 16, 18 degrees, like sub 20s on Thanksgiving morning. So very chilly.
Don't like that. Don't like to hear that.
But, I guess by Western New York standards, not so bad.
Not so bad. It's just the snow, really. We never really got, like I say, never really got the real cold, the below zeros and that, but just that snow off the lake. That was enough.
Absolutely. So, yeah, banquet's coming up, and then PRI, of course, will be in the next couple of weeks, and then we'll start to hear. We'll start to kind of draw down and get ready for what will come in 2026. But I don't know, Dan. I could be wrong, but I think that I think we're not done with announcements. I think there's going to be more stuff coming out that's going to be definitely worth talking about, and I hope I'm right. But I think I think we're not. We've just kind of touched the surface of all of the things we're going to hear with regard to what happens in 2026, and I'm excited about it.
Well, I mean, a lot of the basic groundwork has been thrown out, and now it's just kind of filling everything in, filling in the holes, and where everything is going to fit in this, all these announcements, and hopefully everything, works out for everybody. And so, like I say, to the fans out there, just get out there and support the pulling. That's what, we need to go out there and support the pulling, and there's going to be plenty of it. So that's, But yeah, so NTPA banquet for Orlando, moving there for the next couple of years, right outside of Universal Studios. So that'll be interesting to see how the folks will make that event, and hopefully we'll be able to see plenty of folks down there. And always a good time at the NTPA banquet. All the banquets always have a good time seeing everybody, and it's always always a good time to, everybody kind of sit back and relax and kind of look at the season in review. And
I'm glad they're doing that. Like I say, I of course won't be able to make that trip, but I think being in a warm climate will be just fun as opposed to where they've been, in Columbus or the other places where it's usually cold in December. So I know a lot of folks are excited to head to Orlando, and maybe some people will piggyback and make it a trip to Disney and do some other things and make a little vacation out of it. And I'm excited for what's going to happen there, and we'll be able to tune in and watch all that on Full Pull Live. And now, Dan, has anything been discussed in terms of which polls that you'll be hitting so far in 2026, or is your calendar already coming together?
It's coming together. I mean, for right now, the Grand National polls are on that list, and we'll see what we fill in between, and working from there. But as of right now, it's gonna, Grand National polls starting, in March now, and
Yep.
of course, got the farm show coming up in February.
Sure.
Always a great time down there, and yeah, it really not. I haven't seen too much here for January yet. January's kind of, we're seeing what's going on, and
Yep.
always interesting to see how January goes. And
Sure. Well, as announcers go, as you're well aware, as this time of year comes, your book starts to, you get rumblings about, okay, well, here's where we're going to go, and it's never usually the same each year, maybe just a tad bit different. And you do have some that you usually hit frequently, and then others you may not. But this time, between once we get to the farm show and once we get into late February, early March, we will have a better understanding of where we're going next year. I already know that I'm headed back to Henry, Illinois.
okay,
July the 25th, I believe, somewhere in there. Or no, the 18th. And then the 24th and
so
25th.
it moves back a weekend, right?
Yeah, the 18th,
Okay.
the 24th and 25th is Meade County on top of Chapel Hill. So
Okay.
I'll be at those two events in July, and that's really all I know so far. But it's very, very early. But I've got very good relationships with those promoters, and they've already penciled me back in for next year, thankfully, and appreciate the opportunity to get to go back to those places.
For sure. Yeah, always a like you say, start filling that calendar in. And now I got to ask you. I mean, this is a non-polling related question, but we
Sure.
saw last weekend down in Pomona for the NHRA finals. I can't recall in my memory banks about them ever canceling an event at the end of the season like that.
Yeah,
Do you
I'd never
recall?
seen that. I'd never
Okay.
seen that happen either. That was interesting. But I know they were fighting weather, so I don't know if they just decided, hey, maybe season's over and they don't want to run on Monday or what. But I had never seen that either. But while we're talking about the NHRA, what's your take on the Procs leaving John Schwartz, and where do you think they're going?
It looks like they are heading over to Mr. Tasca, is what it
I'd
looks.
heard that. I'd heard that could be a possibility, but I haven't seen anything in stone yet. So
Yeah, the only thing that I saw was that their task is supposed to make an announcement like in January or something. So
okay,
that'll be interesting. And there's Miles joining us here, and Miles, we talked earlier about starting the show on a somber note, and we wanted to talk about Steve here, but we wanted you to be with us to talk about him. So
Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys waiting on me, and certainly it's been an interesting last few days for sure. But my heart goes out to the Boyd family, and certainly it's been for Jeremy and Jennifer and myself. Today's already a day that carries a lot of weight and a lot of just memory and stress and burden with Dad's passing, and so. It's just not it's one of those deals where I think as we kind of find ways to find a different path with death, and we lose our mentors and we lose our heroes, and that makes it really difficult. So I don't really have I wrote an article, I guess, that basically kind of put everything I could put into it for my heart and kind of how things feel. I think that's become something Jeremy can definitely vouch for this, that my way of grief and kind of starting the grieving process has often become with me writing. And so I sat down yesterday evening and kind of put my heart into what I would call story about Steve. But I guess for me, I'm lucky. Dan, you understand some of that as well, because you got to know him on a much different level than a lot of people who just get to see him in the pulling game. You get to learn from him from the business perspective. You get to learn from him from the Christianity and general faith perspective, and I think that's such a neat component of him, as he was such a fierce competitor and one who wanted to win and truthfully at all costs was ready to do what he needed to in order to try to push the needle and roll the ball even harder towards his competitors. But at the end of it and at the core of it all was a man who was very faithful and very driven by Jesus, and he knew what his purpose was, and that didn't mean that he wasn't very firm in a business dealing or very firm with an employee that may not have been hitting the mark, but he was beyond fair and certainly taught me more than I could ever imagine. So, I think there's a ripple effect that's going to occur from this whole scenario. But at the end of the day, what a mark he left on our community, on our sport, on his employees, and all the people who have come into contact with him.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, the whole spectrum, just everywhere that whatever he touched, and yeah, like you said, just terrible news to hear. And you start thinking back of the different conversations you had with Steve and different things talked about, and it just like you say, from business all the way to tractor pulling, and every time you talk to him, you learn something, and that's one thing that I like to bring about, is that you always seem to learn something from anything you talk. You talk tractor pulling, you learn something from, and it just all the way up through business, and just, yeah, what a great guy.
Well, and one of the most complimentary people of our father, of course, he just never had anything bad to say about our dad. He you'd see him somewhere and he would come up and, on many gigs when I was announcing, he would say, well, your dad was just a great guy and I just really miss him, or, you're doing a great job and following in your dad's footsteps. He was just always very complimentary of dad and, of us as well. But Miles, I wanted you just to relay the story that you start with in your tribute to him, because I did not know that story until you wrote it today. And I just kind of wanted you to share. So, everybody knows that Miles has been with the Boyd family since 2014, working in various capacities for them. But on your very first day in your office, when you're brand new employee and you should be learning or training or trying to figure out what you're supposed to be doing and getting your bearings in your new position, Mr. Steve walks into your office, shuts the door behind him, sits down, and has this conversation. And I would love for you to relay to the fans what that conversation was all about, and then subsequently what it led to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can vouch for the day. I can remember the day. I started on January 6th of 2014. It just so happens that we got an overabundance of snow over the night leading into it. And so I woke up super early and very anxious to start my job, and I left plenty of time to get to the office. I got there and I walked in and they directed me to my office, and I proceeded to sit in that very spot for no less than 90 minutes before anyone said a word to me. And so, I was just kind of back there doodling and like, wow, what am I going to do? And a few minutes later, he came in and he looked right at me and he's like, "Hey, you got a minute?" I'm like, "Yeah, I've got all kinds of time. I work for you now, so whatever you need me to do, man, I'm yours." And So we sat down, and his first question to me was, you were going to build a modified tractor today, who would build your chassis? What horsepower would you use? And, we recapped and rehashed and recapped and rehashed, not just 1 year, but multiple years of discussion on, like, these are the guys that are winning. These are the guys that are in the front. They've continually been in the front. And, I think for your sake, you should really consider this is what you want to do. And the conversation, then went to, okay, well, we can do that, but what else do you need to do? And so, much like you would find in a job interview, he began interviewing engine builders, and he began asking questions, and those questions were not simple questions. And like, the difference between a lot of people that have been in this scenario and Steve is, whoever the engine builder is, you're going to know what you got, because that thing's going to be dynoed immediately. I mean, we're not even going to bolt that thing on a tractor, folks. We're going to put that thing straight on the dyno, and we are going to wear it out. And, so the discussion continued, and there, at that point in time, the Brad Anderson hadn't really come into a large point here yet. Sassy was doing pretty well. MBR was coming along pretty well. Adam was not in the owning capacity, but was a full-time employee of Bob at that time. And so, Larry and Adam came and had a discussion, and that ultimately is where Steve started. He started with an Engler frame and MBRs. Yeah. And in that discussion, it was like, well, who do you want to beat? How are you going to beat them?
Right.
And in truth, at that point in time, Steve Bunnage was one of the guys who was kind of setting the curve.
That's true. Yeah.
With an Engler frame and a Hemi setup, and we kind of debated back and forth, like, who's going to be the next person that we're targeting, and like, how are we going to get there? And the discussion that he asked me, the questions that he asked me, it's like, fellas, I've never been in that type of scenario where we're going to buy it. Like, we're ordering this deal, and it's happening.
Right.
And by the end of that week, I mean, a frame had been ordered, and 4 Hemis had been ordered, and we were modified pullers. I mean,
I remember you calling me, during the midst of all of that, being like, wow.
Yeah.
Here's a conversation that in 2 hours we go from, hey, what would you do, to, okay, we just did that.
Yeah. I mean, I came home from work on my first day on the job, and I looked at Allison and I said, I might have the coolest job in the world. This might be the best job I've, heck, guys, I was 8 hours in.
But I think, if you then look at that conversation and you look at where it goes, so it goes miners and an Engler frame, then it goes to modern equipment and Sassy frames, and then before you knew it, there's a full engine.
Full pull. I was to say full pull in there, right?
Frame, and the engine program goes to Boyd. So, like, when he knew everything he could possibly know, he decided he could do it better, and they did. Like brought it in house and had unbelievable success with their absolute own program. And again, it takes an innovator. It takes a visionary to not be afraid to pump the money and the funding into, doing something that may or may not work on paper, and then just running with it until it does. And they had, you draw, a great example in your tribute to him about that pass
Oh,
screw blower tractor at Bowling Green. He could have driven it all the way around the Wood County Fairground and never burned it in.
Well, he was going, he was going 36 mile an hour when he backed out of it at 417 feet.
and
So-
Miles and I looked at each other after that run, and I'll never forget. We just looked at each other, and it was like it had to be, and I still think one of the all-time great runs in modified pull and in tractor pulling.
The saddest thing, in my opinion, about that night is he didn't win the pull.
Yep. Yeah.
Because he had to come back in a pull off, and that old girl did not hook the same way.
Yep.
Steve did not drive it the same way,
Right.
and it just didn't. But Jeremy, I'll correct you on one thing,
Okay.
and then we can continue to discuss. So, the second tractor that was ordered was an Engler frame
Okay. My
with
fault.
sassies, and then in the midst of all of that, there was this discussion and there was some topic about what are we going to do and how do we want to structure our ability to go pull NTPA Grand National as well. So when they were going to, they could go run with their eights, and Steve even won some unlimited classes with his eights.
Yeah.
And to this day, I would tell you that turnkey, very first Engler frame is sitting in the pulling shop today. And I genuinely believe that somebody could come right out and be very, very tough to run against right now with that combination that has been not running for a few years, because I feel like they were kind of ahead of the curve on that spectrum. There was a wedge frame from Joe Stock that was in the shop for a little while. We had some minis that came and went and then came and went. In the midst of all of that as well, you had the introduction of the screw blowers.
Right.
And, that relationship with the screws, it inspired limitations in the unlimited class.
Right.
So which also inspired Green Streak Unlimited.
Well, and I think you also
which was then Green Streak Limited.
Yes.
I think you also have to talk about Mitas tires too. Like that all happened sort of when you were in the depths of the pulling world as well. Like when they decided they were going to start, buying as many of those as they could get in a container and get them over here.
Yeah, no, I mean, at that time when I think the initial idea was there were maybe a dozen sets stateside, and Steve bought them and brought them from Charles City and started kind of working on getting them, what kind of pattern do you want? How many lugs do you want? How are you going to set that up and structure it? And, guys, we haven't even talked about, his successes in the pro stock game.
I was going to talk. I was going to say.
right.
I mean, it's basically the same. It's deja vu. I mean, with him with developing that cylinder head, and it's just amazing that. Yeah.
We haven't talked about that. Like another aspect I didn't write about that really warrants a whole nother story is his customers and the success that his customers had as well.
Right.
So, as he started to build his horsepower and he started to develop that horsepower with Mike and Greg and the tractors that they had, and in the shop with Tim Strickland, who, he's a farm guy who helps manage the farm, but within a few years' time is probably one of the most sought after, noted, diesel guys in the game in terms of the pro stock game. And to this day, his knowledge and understanding of the intricacies of a pro stock engine are up there. And he quickly learned about Hemis. I mean, he was introduced, before Shannon came, before Brad came. Tim learned how to make those MBR Hemis work and help with Adam. But, at one point in time, there were 7 maybe or 8 pro stock tractors running on the Champions Tour that were utilizing horsepower that was coming out of Boyd Performance.
Right.
Both the Wishmeyer tractors, Nathan Babler, Mickey Shorter, Jeremy Freer had 2. And you start penciling all the pieces together on that,
and elevated their
my word. But if Steve and Greg didn't win and Mike didn't win, Nathan Babler or Wishmeyers or somebody in that game probably did. Mickey won a title in 2015. That was an engine prepped right there, in the shop, and Steve wasn't even running pro stock anymore.
Right.
And he didn't run one full season because they kind of stepped away, and he just went and hit sparing points hooks whenever he wanted, but didn't run a full point circuit, or he might even have more titles. So, I've talked with so many people. It seems like my phone has rang and texts have come, and it's been very sweet. People from all across the sport, and I'm not a Boyd. I was not born into that family, but I have been embraced by that family, and so I appreciate them so much and what they have been able to do for my family. But I will tell you that every story, and in the article that I wrote, I talk about the Mount Rushmore of pulling, and I talk about that on the microphone a lot. I like to have that discussion on the microphone a lot because when I'm announcing a tractor pull, I want to start to ask questions of the people that have sit there with me as well. What I think is sad in some instances is, in talking with Colin Ross yesterday, there are people that don't know Steve Boyd as a pro stock puller.
Right.
There are people that really don't know Steve Boyd as an unlimited puller that, with the help of Full Pull, with the help of promotion, they've become new fans into the sport here in the last 3 or 4 years. And with that, they don't really have the true understanding of what we have been accustomed to that began in the late 90s and just kept going. But, at the end of the day, when you study him and when you talk about him and you read into all of his achievements, his lasting achievements aren't just in his victories, but in the fact that Greg, Mike, Andrew, Austin, they were all winners. They've all gone and had tremendous success, and his competitors became customers in so many instances. You think about even still to this day. Brian Knox is busy in that shop, fellas, with Hemi Horsepower. Yep. And that was all inspired by people that saw the work that Shannon and Brad and Brian and Steve collectively could put together. And, when you bring like-minded people together, which is exactly what he did. He went and got Shannon Leishner and he went and got Brad Walkob and he brought them. And you talk about a master fabricator who can create and build you anything. And you talk about a guy who, when he has the means of getting it financially, can think outside of the box. That team of Steve and Shannon and Brad and Brian, holy moly, guys!
Oh yeah.
That's an Austin Coil type of scenario right there from the heyday of the JFR days.
Absolutely. And then you go back to what you said, but how cool a job is that? Like, just, can you imagine being approached by Steve Boyd? Hey, I want you to do this. And let's do it. And what's going to cost? I don't care. Let's do it.
Sky's the limit. Sky's the limit. And it's just unfortunate that Steve wasn't able to pick up that modified championship.
Absolutely.
It's just unfortunate that,
he went out of bounds in Wheatland, which cost him a title, unfortunately. And that one was pretty well in his hand. Yep. And the one thing I want to say is don't get me wrong, guys. Steve was a wealthy man. He was wealthy in his faith. He was wealthy with his family. He was fruitful with the ground that he had. He was an incredible man in giving and sharing his wealth with the local community, with the church. And so, yes, did he have the money to be able to buy the parts that he needed? And did he have that as a means of helping him elevate his program? Yes. But the one thing that he had was he was incredibly calculated in what he did. It was not just a frivolous expense. No. When he made a decision, that decision was not something that he had just woke up on and tried it. He was studying it out. He had sought out vendors. If it wasn't him, it was Greg. If it wasn't Greg, it was Jason. If it wasn't Jason, it was Austin. If it wasn't somebody, they were calling and finding the best possible partners.
And Miles.
Whoever was on the other end of that phone call, at which point Steve called, when they answered, if they didn't know him, within a few minutes, they knew how serious he was and what was coming. And, like he just pushed the needle. He pushed the needle so much. And he changed the sport. He changed the pro stock class as we knew it. And it hasn't stopped yet. It has not stopped yet. We are still pushing limitations every single day in a pro stock class.
Yeah, one of my conversations with Steve at the shop there, and he had mentioned about the design on that cylinder head for the pro stock class, and a lot of them ideas still being used today. That he went out and he developed that head, and it's amazing. You talk about the different things in every class, but I mean to come out there and change the world of pro stock pulling. It's just amazing. And I wish I would have had a recorder with me that day to replay some of them stories. But yeah, it's just amazing. And, just all the different things over the years that a lot of people didn't know, and it just,
well, that's the thing I would tell you is he would listen when people gave him advice, and then he would often find ways to make sure that what they were telling him was not or was correct. One of the things I laugh about, and hopefully I don't get in trouble for sharing this, but one of the very first times I got to go into the pulling shop, I actually went up into this little loft area, and on the shelf in the loft area were weights, and they looked identical. I mean, fellas, custom carbon copy weights, 100-pound John Deere weights that you would mount to the front of a pro stock tractor. Except for Steve knew that his competitors were often watching his setups to develop their setups. And because of that, he had custom plastic 100-pound gimmick, like knockoff weights that weighed about 10 pounds each or 5 pounds each made, so that he could pack the front of his tractor. And when his competitors saw the front of the tractor packed, they would assume he had 1,000 pounds on the front, when ultimately he only had 800 on the front because two of them only weighed 10 pounds. And I have a picture, because when Bethany and Jared Nelson were partnered up with Boyd's and we're running the Warrior track and the Boyd and Sons machinery truck, Bethany came over and Jared came over to tour the facilities, and I have a photo of Bethany holding these plastic weights, and she's just standing there holding them, and they're really not 100 pounds, but they look identical to the 100-pound weights. So, like he got deep into that game in terms of knowing, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to set up, and this is what we're going to focus on with each one. And, as he got deeper into the sport, like, folks, it wasn't just about going to an event and winning. It was about finding ways to take what he had learned and apply it. Sure. And if he could get the horsepower to the track, oh my, he was not going to be beat. But the other aspect of it is, and again, I don't want to keep alluding to the idea of the article, but in that discussion, we lost Mom, and Dad made choices that may not have been what Jeremy, Jennifer, or I would have hoped for him. And then, as we got later in life, of Dad's life, I started to have portions of my grief for Mother that became aimed towards Dad. And I have no problem being honest with you and explaining that to you, but Steve became a source of wisdom for me. He became somebody who didn't just stop by and knock on the door and want to chat about pulling anymore, but he wanted to talk about me, and he wanted to talk about where I was in my faith, and he wanted to talk more about where I was in our relationship with Dad. And there were times where, I'll just be flat honest with you, what he suggested and what I believed were totally different things. And I didn't agree. In hindsight's 2020, but I do wish at times that I would have taken that initiative that he had encouraged me to have, and I would have mended some fences with Dad, and I would have expressed my concerns with Dad, and I would have handled that situation more like Steve encouraged me to do so, as opposed to how my being stubborn ended up doing so.
Well, and I love how you alluded to the fact that he knew exactly where you were going, and he knew he couldn't change your mind, but he still tried.
He did, and like I said, fellas, I am blessed. I have been blessed. My life has been a blessing. But these moments of conversation and the moments of knowledge and wisdom have been a great asset to who I am, for my employment, for my professional development, learning how to work hard, and how to truly not just be complacent or make it a job where I'm just there from 8 to 5 o'clock, but more extend the idea that customers always are in need. And I've learned that. I've learned in Steve's business dealings that when you need to buy something, you want to buy it right now. And if you don't answer the phone,
somebody else
somewhere else. I'm sorry, you're out. You had a shot, and you're out.
Yep.
And so you get that opportunity to have better customer service. You get that opportunity to make an impression. And like, I learned a lot. I learned a lot. I learned a lot how to buy things, things of big value. A vehicle. Do you have the money? Yep. Do you want to buy it? Yep. Okay. I'll never forget. And this wasn't Steve. This was Greg. But when I wanted to buy my very first Toyota, I called Greg, and I'm sitting there. I wanted this Tundra. I dreamed about this Tundra. I'd saved for this Tundra. And I called Greg, and I'm like, hey, I got a question for you. What's this thing worth? And he gives me this rough estimate, and I sat there and him-hauled in the parking lot for the entire day. And I never bought the truck. And I went back to get it 2 days later, and everybody knows the story of Miles Krieger's luck, but I did all the paperwork and then turned left out of the parking lot on the sunniest day of the year, only to find that there was hail a quarter of a mile away, and it rained hail down on my brand new truck that wasn't insured yet. And Greg tells me all the time, like, you should have just bought the truck when I told you to buy the truck, you idiot. And that very same thing is very similar to Steve. Like, you don't have time to study it out. Is this what you want? Have you approached it? Do you know that what you've got is a fair deal? Is the information that you have enough to make you feel comfortable? Yes, then buy it or do it and then go. And for Steve's sake, he realized in the early part of his business career that he had these trucks that were sitting on the lot that he used for his farming operation that he needed to use the rest of the year when he wasn't farming. And pretty soon that trucking company started to evolve and develop. And, at one point in time when I hired in, he had over 100 trucks that he was on the road. But you also understand that those 100 trucks that were on the road were the shiniest, prettiest, long hood Peterbilt trucks you could ever see, with the shiniest, most up-to-date flatbed trailers you could get. And every one of those drivers that had the blessing of being able to jump in the seat, they were held to a standard, and that truck was going to be up to speed with that, and if even they were over the road or they were home, they were going to push, and they were going to drive a whole bunch of miles and hit their deadlines.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. And still look good. Still see them up 150 quite a bit.
Never see an ugly one.
Yes. No.
Never.
Well, now you'll see a lot more variety in the colors, because
love the colors.
The Peterbilt guys had a conversation with Steve years ago, and it's one of my favorite stories to hear from him. But he had been buying about 5 colors regularly: a red, a maroon, a white, a black, and like a light blue. And after he had done that for several years and was trading trucks in that had a similar mileage on them, his rep from Peterbilt said, well, I need you to get a different color. And he's like, well, I don't want a different color. I want to stick with my 5 colors. I guess the discussion went a little bit deeper, and pretty soon he ordered almost 40 different colors or 50 different colors of trucks when he ordered his next batch. And I know everybody kind of laughed about it, but my favorite truck that ever came in that fleet was a root beer barrel brown, like a candy brown that just shined. And like, I'm not a fan of brown, but this truck was just gorgeous. And it rolled in that day, and he's like, "Yeah, I ordered that one because that guy made me mad." And I'm like, "What?" And he told me the story, and I'm like, "Look at that truck; it's absolutely gorgeous."
Well, I remember seeing like a really like
Lime
a
green.
Slimer green one.
Oh yeah, yep. And the yellow, see quite a few of the
Bright
yellow.
yellow. There's
Yep.
neon
Purple.
green. There's lots of colors out there, and like right now, the one we're using for machinery is another one of my favorites. It's white with orange fenders, and but he had white with green fenders and several different varieties that he put together with his order. But I loved him, and he loved me, and he loved a lot of people in this game and this sport, and he wasn't afraid to be kind and generous to all the people in this sport. So I think we're all blessed because we got to witness him
Yes.
do what he was very passionate about. And at the end of the day, what a testament. He and Karen were married in 1970. They've been married for 55 years. She was with him for all of this. She was with him for the development of the businesses, and for the passion for pulling, and truth. At times, she was kind of
She was, yes.
the driver of making them go and push and win another title. And she's competitive at heart too. She wants those guys to be the best. And I just I hope when people look back and reflect on it, they see all of it with Steve was a very good man. And there were times where he might have had a little swagger. He might have had a little edge to him, but that's also what made him pretty darn good at what he did, and pretty special.
Absolutely. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, rest well, Steve Boyd, and thank you
Yes.
from all of us.
Yes, Godspeed. Absolutely.
Yep. So I guess on Monday, we'll get to celebrate him some here at the local church, and then Tuesday he'll be laid to rest on December the 2nd. So for folks that are watching this, and obviously faithful type people, we'll covet those prayers and ask that you direct those to Miss Karen, who is going to be without Steve, and to Steve's sons, Mike and Greg, and all the grandkids, and
Yep.
even the great grandkids that are there and part of his world. So you start looking at photos, and there were several amazing tributes to him today. But if you truly measure your life by what you leave behind, he left a pretty awesome legacy with that family.
Yes, he did.
Without question.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep, that was yeah, like you say, a great man, and like it's just terrible. Hate to hear and things like that. Oh, just we need yeah.
Well, cancer stinks.
Yes,
Yes,
it does.
It does.
I can't tell you that cancer is the full reason, but I can tell you that as he battled and fought in the coming months, we were going to see a man who I thought was bulletproof show some signs probably of fighting with that cancer.
Yeah.
And I don't want him to be gone. I certainly never would have wished for him to be gone, but in this particular instance, we'll all still have that invincible man with the tough handshake and smile.
Yep.
That we remember, as opposed to somebody who has brittly been fighting and struggling. So
Sure.
Yeah, for sure. Hold on to them memories. Everybody hold on to them memories, right? That's
share them. I mean, I think for Jeremy and I can vouch for the idea for sure that maybe not today, and maybe not even tomorrow, but in the coming weeks and months, those stories will be some of the greatest therapeutic healing that Austin, Greg, Mike, and anybody could have, is those stories. Because Jeremy and I have gone back and at times can even, I think we're all blessed in the sense that YouTube and a lot of these tractor pulls are on there. We can go and catch Dad and listen to him and hear him and see him, and obviously Steve's going to be, he's out there. We can go find all kinds of RFD and MAV TV coverage, and we can go back in the archives and utilize those subscriptions that we had to be able to find him and hear him and see him.
Absolutely.
Well, and I know, Dan, you wanted to round it out this evening with some mini rod predictions. I know we've gone a little bit over talking about Steve, but did you still want to do that a little bit, or?
Yeah, we'll touch on that Friday. Probably, I say if we can, we'll try to plan on that because we're getting a little bit on the late side. So we'll do something like that if it's all good for you guys.
Absolutely, I'm excited to have those conversations and go from there. Absolutely, but again, Godspeed to the Boyd family, and we're thinking of you guys tonight and every night, and it doesn't get easier. You just learn to deal with it, as I think Miles would attest, and the stories will all come out in the coming days, and I don't think Steve would want anybody to be sad over this deal. I feel like he would want people to continue to celebrate him and be humble, and I think he's rejoicing because he was close to the Lord, and the Lord has taken him to his final resting place. So whether or not we like that or not, it wasn't our decision, and we will have to continue on. But I think what a legacy he's built, and was proud to call him a friend for sure. And
absolutely.
And so happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Sorry for the somber notes here tonight, but this is reality, and this is This Week in Pulling. So we did want to talk about it.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. And referring once again back to Miles' article, with safe travels, everybody, this weekend, and hug those relatives close to you.
Men fences, absolutely.
We'll see everybody next week.
Thanks, folks.